Here we go. So 3, 2. What up, y'all? Welcome back to La Prensa, Texas. Today we're at Harlandale's central office with
Ricardo Hernandez of
what do you do?
Finance. I'm the assistant superintendent for finance.
Fantastic. So part of the reason I wanted to talk to you was because Proposition B is something I think a lot of people don't understand.
I see.
But as I understand it, the simplest way that I can grasp it is that we are taking a debt that we already owe from one account into another account, and in that account, the state will pay 41 cents on the dollar. Is that in general correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly said. Simply said, exactly.
So let's get into like the complicated part of it though.
Okay.
How does this all work? Tell me the mechanics of it.
So, like you said at the beginning, we ended up getting what we call the maintenance tax note. And that's just another term that government entities have to use when they're going to borrow money. So we basically got a loan.
Okay.
And so when we got the loan, then that allowed us to pursue the construction of the auditorium, the HVAC, the roof replacements. So we didn't need to wait for a bond issue. The general fund could support making that payment basically on the loan. So that got us going, and so we got our projects off and running. What the state then does is, as you said on your second part, was that they assist you when you do issue debt. And so what we're doing with the maintenance tax notes is we're just refunding. It's like refinancing your home.
Okay.
You're getting a second loan and now your interest rate is lower. Our advantage is when we refinance or refund these maintenance tax notes, then that allows us then to get the state assistance, because now it's considered bonded debt. And so with the bonded debt, that is paid from the second or the other component of our regular tax rate. And so that's called the debt service tax rate. And so when districts use their debt service tax rate, low wealth districts like Harlandale, they get state support. And that's the state's efforts to try to equalize school districts that are higher in property wealth. And so the higher property wealth districts don't need that state assistance because they have the taxable value, the property taxable value for that. Harlandale, we don't have that type of capacity. So the state wants to try to equalize things, and so they provide state support to school district like ours.
Okay. So HB3, as I understand it, is what is forcing us to do this so quickly. Traditionally, with any bond, and you've been involved in we got a lot of time to prepare for these things. We got a lot of time to campaign for them in the community and so forth, so much and so forth. Why this happen so fast? Why the urgency?
Well, when we looked at what our needs are for the school district, and we've seen the community support, and really we're very limited as to what we call the bonding capacity. We have a limited amount of property wealth, and we have our attendance. And so the attendance is what impacts the state formula as far as how much the state can support the school district. So when we see what our limited needs are, then that pretty much narrows the focus of what a school district can do like ours with its bond proceeds. And so with that, we have our maintenance tax notes that we started projects. We have other projects that we know need to be done and have been a need for so many years, such as the CTE building, the gym and auditorium building that we're also looking at, and then also improvements at the stadium. So looking at that, then the effort is, okay, let's get the word out. And we still have time because this bond proposition is going to be over 10 years. So we still have time to get the community together, and then they can help us or help the district focus on what else needs to be done here in the district.
But like for us to do it on May 7th, as far as looking at the school board meetings, it looks like basically from them voting on it to it being on the ballot and us voting on it as a community, that's like 3 months. Mm-hmm. So could this not have waited till a later election cycle?
Yes. I mean,
it
could wait for a later election cycle, but when the parties involved looked at our community, the needs of the school district, then they felt, the May 7th. Now, if it doesn't pass, well, we have another election coming up, and so again, in regards to the maintenance tax notes, that's paying dollar for dollar.
Yeah.
So this year we're obligated to make an interest payment. So next year, if that proposition doesn't pass, then we budget for that, and we'll budget another interest payment. So the goal is to, or the communication is to, okay, we have this debt that we're paying with our general fund. Can we move it over to the debt service side? If the bond issue passes, if it doesn't pass this election, then we look at it and possibly put on the ballot for the November election.
Okay, and one of the things I understood this morning was that actually Proposition C would also just be a repaying of debts that we've already incurred. Is that correct?
No. So what the district has done is that it has leftover bond proceeds, a very small amount left over from the bond 2015 and older bonds. That really money that has been accumulated not from the bond proceeds, but from the interest earnings of those particular bonds. And then we also received a settlement, what we called our train settlement, and that was several years ago. So that money has been there, and now it's available.
Collecting interest and stuff?
Working on collecting interest so that it provides us additional resources to do the things that we're wanting to do, which is on the stadium. So we're using the available resources that we have towards the stadium, but it doesn't provide the complete work that we're wanting to have done there in the stadium. So the $9.5 million is to complete the work at the stadium.
Okay, so at the stadium, but aren't those projects going to happen with or without this bond passing?
Yes, and so what we're looking at when we do the remaining part of the stadium with the 9.5, we have that monies in our general fund. And so what the district also did was it passed what they call a reimbursement resolution. So what that allows the district to do is incur these types of costs so that if a bond issue does pass, then it can reimburse itself. So we have the proceeds and the available resources for that. And so then we can continue on with our projects.
So, but see, then in my mind, that almost makes Proposition C similar to Proposition B. Is that correct or incorrect? Like that money that we're using for Memorial Stadium, if we were to pass this, would the state help us by paying 41 cents on those dollars, or is that still coming out of?
No, that would come out from the state. The state would provide us that support.
They would give us 41 cents on the dollar for
For
Proposition
the
2?
proposition, for all three propositions, because all three are bond issues.
Okay.
So that's bonded debt.
Wow.
So when the bonded debt is issued, then basically that debt is set up in what we call the debt service. And the tax rate, that's why it's being adjusted from where it's at 43 cents up by 6 cents to close to 50 cents. It generates our portion of what's going to be necessary in order to make the annual debt payment for the bonds when they're issued. Now, keep in mind, we're not issuing all 125 million in one tranche. It's going to be, at least the projections are 50 million this year if all three pass. And then we look at, in 2025, what is our ADA, what is our property tax value? That all factors into what the state formula is going to be as far as how much funding that they'll provide us for that.
So all of these things, I mean, Proposition B and Proposition C, they're already going to happen with or without us saying yes to the bond, right?
We have the resources for both, because on Proposition B, we have the maintenance tax loans. On Proposition C, we have the resources in order to advance. But now, the plan for the district is that if we can get those funded with the bond issue, then that won't put that strain on the general fund.
So then
And
I
so
guess
the goal is if we can put it and take advantage of the state support, then that's what the district wants to do.
right. Okay. So then Prop B and Prop C are actually just going to save us money. These are not things that are going to ultimately.
Well, I wouldn't say they're saving us money, but they're taking advantage of the monies that are available, the state support that we're going to get. I mean, we're still paying for those bonds through principal and interest, but that portion that the district's responsible for, that's where that 6 cents comes in.
Okay.
That's going to pay for that added portion, and then the state is paying the other 41%.
Now Prop A then stands alone as a thing that can only happen with the bond passing, right?
Right, and now some of those projects, we've also looked at if we have available monies for those, then those could come from the general fund, but it's mainly Proposition B and Proposition C. Proposition A is, yes, totally from the bond.
So on Prop A, I understand the CTE building, I understand the gym and the multi-purpose unit. But talk to me about long-term costs, because all that I see on the presentation right now is what it's gonna cost us up front to build those things.
Mhm.
What is it gonna cost us to maintain those over the years, and do we have that available to us in the general fund already?
Sure. And so we factor that into our budget, and when you're talking about long-term costs, you're talking about, the utilities, the custodians and so forth. So that is in our budget, that is what we're gonna make sure we plan for. But again, it's an effort that we need to make in order to keep up our enrollment, make our school district attractive. We're competing with other school districts, really, and
Yeah.
we're also competing with charter schools.
That's it.
So I think when you have these types of features that are available to the students, they have a choice. And so I think these are attractive choices for them to select.
Okay. At one point in my time with Honda, we had a rainy day fund that was pretty big. Is that still around, or do we use it?
No, and so right now, at the end of last year, our fund balance is at 35 million.
Wow.
And so the board's intent was to try to maintain the 25 million, which is 2.5 months of operations.
Okay.
And so, the effort is being made every year to maintain that. We know there is a drop in ADA, and that's how all school districts get funded, and we're not the only district facing that issue, it's really across the nation. And so, again, any efforts that the district can make to make it attractive and keep its ADA up and increase it, then that's what we're trying to do. And that's one of the things that we did recently and with the sale of our 100 acres. That it was sold to KB, there's a development going up there. We hope to attract those particular students to our school district.
Okay. And one of the last questions I have on these bond things is, there's been an effort from folks who say we shouldn't vote for this bond, and I'm not asking you to advocate for the voting of or against the bond, but I wonder if their concerns are legitimate in that they wonder, if we pass something like this and taxes go up, won't it only help to push out some folks who already feel as though their tax burden is too high? And then on the other side of things, once these things do get built, wouldn't it attract a whole new group of people to our side of town and kind of push out the population that's currently living here? Gentrify our area, like we're helping to gentrify our own area.
That's an interesting question. I've really haven't looked at it from that angle. I'd assume that that's a possibility. But again, the flip side to that is, it makes their values more attractive, makes their equity in their house increase as well. So it provides them added personal wealth, you might say. Again, it makes the community and improves the community when you have students here. We have a strong school district, a strong community enrollment. So involvement. So when you have students here and you have an active community, then the flip side to your question is, okay, when we don't do anything and our students leave and our young families leave, how's the community going to react?
Very good. Last question I got for you, the same question I asked everybody else around the district. What's one life lesson that you've learned in your life that you could share with folks at home to use in theirs?
Well, I believe the life lesson is, you're in working in a school district, you really see the value that the students bring to you. And I know as simplistic as it sounds, they are the future, and yes, we have to count on them as we get older, and they're gonna be there for us, so, yeah.
I think one day when they write the history of Harlandale, they will say that you made a major impact on many parts of it. I know kind of the stuff you've done behind the scenes, and I just want to thank you for it, brother.
All right.
Take it
Thank
easy.
you.
Pretty folks at home, thank you so much for watching. That was cool, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay, thank you.
All right.
That's great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Sure.